Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Brittany Dufilly. I'm the Educational and Outreach Coordinator here at Verteks Consulting. Today, we have Steve Hall, one of our senior engineers, going over end user tips, tricks. He's going to do a full overview of the client. With that, I'm going to kick it off to Steve. Thank you, Steve, for joining us.
Thank you, Brittany. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great day. As Brittany said, today we're going to go over the Connect client. I'm going to start out with kind of an overview of the client itself, and then we'll dig into some of the more advanced settings and see what we can make this thing do. So the Connect client, as most of you I'm sure already know, it's an application that allows you to control and manage your telephone and the settings related to your user account and extension on the telephone system. The software can run on Windows or Mac, or if you have a Citrix environment with like a remote desktop servers, the client can run in that kind of environment as well. Let me go ahead and get rid of this slide, and we're going to bring up the software. So when we launch the software, the first thing it's going to bring us to is the login screen. In most cases, you're already going to have this set up. It's going to log in for you. But if you haven't logged in before, you may see this login screen. I have an option here to use Windows credentials. So I actually have Active Directory single sign-on enabled. That's something that we can enable on a system-wide basis to allow users to use the same username and password to log into the client as they use to log into their computer. If you're not using Windows credentials single sign-on, you can uncheck that box and you can enter your username or email address as defined in the Mitel phone system and the password there. And then if you need to, you can specify the server name. Or again, your system administrator may have set up a group policy to pre-populate this information out to the desktops. So in my case, I'm going to use Windows credentials because I am enabled for that. And then you also have an option here to check off Remember Me, which helps out in the future when I launch my Mitel Connect icon. It's not going to ask me to log in again. I'll be able to log right in. So we'll go ahead and log in. All right, and this is the Mitel Connect client. Typically opens up with this typical view here. I like to keep it over on the left-hand side of the screen because as we go through some of the screens, the windows will expand out to the right. Starting at the very top here, the first thing we really see here is the dial pad. The dial pad brings up a typical number pad, so you could actually dial a number from here. Be a little bit kind of awkward, I guess, to do with your mouse. Maybe if you had a touchscreen computer, that could work a little bit easier. Also allows you to, in addition to just dialing, you can also use this dial pad to send DTMF digits over the call. So yeah, the dial pad here, like I said, you could use this to enter in DTMF digits if you were called in and got an auto attendant. Sometimes it's easier to use the Connect client if your phone's not out of reach, or not within reach, I should say. Or again, if you're using a soft phone or external assignment to your cell phone, which is a couple of features we're going to get into in a minute here. But you can use this quick dialer if you need to. Sometimes people are looking for a way to send some digits on a call, and that was the way to do it. Next to the dial pad, right here, we have the quick dialer. When I put my cursor over here and click, it kind of expands to the right, and this allows me to search the directory. When I search the directory, it's going to search, of course, all the extensions that are in our telephone system, any directory entries that have been added, because you can add external numbers to the company directory, frequently used contacts, that sort of thing. And if I have it enabled, it will also search my Outlook contacts. So you'll see as I'm searching through here, for example, if I search for, say, Brian here, if I see a Brian here that I can see availability for, I got a green check mark here, or maybe it's orange, maybe it's red, but if I do see some status here, I can assume that this is one of my internal contacts. Obviously, for my Outlook contacts or external contacts, I'm not going to actually see the status of if they're on the phone or not, or if they're available or not. And of course, if I want to call somebody from here, I can simply click their name. Again, I'm going to get their contact card here where I get some more information about this contact. In this case, we've got different phone numbers populated for this user, fax number, email address. On my contact card for an internal contact, I'll also be able to see a history of my IM messages that I've had with this person. None here. History of my phone calls that I've had with this person, and any voicemails that this person has left me that I still have in my voicemail box. And of course, if I want to call them, I can simply click the green button. This application works like remote control for your phone. So again, whether you're using, a typical desk phone or soft phone client, or external assignment, again, to your cell phone, this software works like remote control for whatever that audio endpoint is. I'm not going to make a call right now, but I will show, if you look here, I searched for Brian. I have several Brian results here. This one has a star next to it. I can highlight the star simply by clicking that. I can take it away, put it back just by clicking that star. When I click the star, what that actually does is it designates this as one of my favorite contacts. So if I come down here to contacts on the left, let me highlight the favorites tab here. I can see all the people that I have essentially put that star next to their name and designated them as one of my favorite contacts. In the Contacts tab, of course, it does give me quick access to be able to click on their name and dial them, but I can also look here and see the status of these extensions. I can see with this orange status here that Dave is on the phone. Because I have the appropriate permissions, I can actually see who he's on the phone with and how long he's been on the phone. Again, that's determined by what permissions your administrator, allows you to have there. But yeah, I have a list of all my favorite contacts. There's a couple different ways that I can choose to view these contacts. Right now, I have it in the compact view. I can put it in list view. Gives me a little bit more information about each contact on the screen, but of course, I don't see as many contacts on the screen. You can scroll up and down. You can sort this list by a few different criteria here, first name, last name. Last contact is kind of a neat one, so that way the people you contact quite frequently would be at the top of the list. Typically, I kind of like the compact view there, so I'm going to flip back to that one. Next tab we have over here is groups. In a large organization, large department, it might make sense to separate your contacts into groups. Those groups could be by different business divisions, departments, maybe buildings, locations, kind of whatever makes sense in your organizational structure there. To create a group, you've got the little plus sign here, so I can create a new contact or group. In this case, I can walk you through creating a new group here, give the group a name. Oops, there we go. Training, and then I can either drag contacts into here if I want to. I can grab somebody, bring them over here, or I can start to type a name in here, type in Brian again. I can find him, I can put him in here. Once I have this built the way I want it, I can create this group. So now I have a new group created. A lot of times people are working with groups. It can be a little bit hard to find the option to modify these groups after they're created. That is actually out here with these this little button here for more details. If I click on that, I can come out here and I can get more details about this group. A couple of neat features we can do with the group. I could actually start a IM chat with the members of this group. I could schedule a meeting or conference bridge with this group, or I could create and send a voicemail to all the users or all the members of this group. So those are a couple of neat things you can do with a group. And then of course, if I decide I need to edit this group, up here, there's a little pencil icon. This is where I come. Maybe I need to change the name of this. Maybe I need to add or remove some users from this group. Can take care of that. Come down here and save it. Now I've made the changes to that group. When you do have the groups, like I said, if you have a lot of contacts, a very large organization, you can even expand and collapse these groups so that you're only viewing the groups that you're currently trying to look for right now. Maybe you've got multiple locations, something like that. You can zoom into the location, open that group up, and find the contact that you're looking for. So those are a couple of neat things that we can do with the groups. While we're looking at contacts, let me open this up a little bit. So as I mentioned, you can hover over a contact to get some more information. I can see what availability state he is in. I can see that he's on the phone, who he's on the phone with. Again, permission-based. I can also, and let me, let's see, let me put a call on hold here real quick. I can show another feature here. So in this case now, this is actually me, but put this on hold. I can see that there's a call on here. If I put it on hold, there we go. Now I can see that this user has a call on hold. If one of my contacts has a call on hold, I can actually come over here and I can choose to unpark that call or unhold it from that extension. So if you're familiar with the call park feature where you can take a call and you can place it on hold, on another extension, or the unpark feature, which is where you can take a call that's on hold and bring it to your extension. This is one of the ways we can do this with the Connect client to unpark a call. So if someone out there says that they've got a call on hold for me, I can find their contact in here and I can actually retrieve that call from their phone and pull that over. All right. Moving down, the next thing we have here is the recent calls. Obviously, this is just your call history, very similar to what you'd have on a cell phone or any type of phone these days. If I look through the call history right now, it has me on all calls. I can see calls that I've placed outbound. With the up to the right arrow shows me an outbound call. The down and to the left arrow shows me inbound calls. There's also this little red kind of skip icon here, that indicates my missed calls. I also have a tab here where I can zero in on just my missed calls, if that's what I want to look at. Of course, again, just like on the Contacts tab or in the Quick Dialer, anytime I click on one of these contacts, I'm going to get the contact card that gives me, all the history and information about that particular contact. One of the other things you can do in the recent calls is there is an option up here if I want to export that call data, if I have a reason to keep that, sort that, pull that into a CSV file that I can work with. That's where that export option is at. All right, and as we work our way down, the next one here is voicemails. Now this one I can see I have a 1 next to. This is similar to what you'll see on the recent calls if you have any missed calls. This is telling me that I have one new voicemail message. So when I click on voicemails, it shows me that I have that voicemail message under my unheard messages tab here. I can click on the voicemail, of course, play it. As you play it, it's going to move that indicator across the screen here. If you need to pull that message back to kind of go back over the phone number that someone read off real quick, you can click back in here and pull that back that way. Oops, now I've heard it, so now it's over here under my all messages. You can choose to play this message either through your computer speakers or your desk phone. In this case, I'm assigned to my desk phone. And then I also have the option here to reply to that message, which is sending a voicemail back to that person, forward that message to somebody else, save the message if I want, moves it over to my saved items, or I can delete the message. If I delete the message, it's going to come down here under my deleted voicemails. The deleted voicemails actually get cleaned out from the system every night. So if you do delete a message and you did not intend to delete that message, you decide you need to get it back, you need to come down here to your deleted items before the end of the day, and you can restore this message to move it back up to your just all messages folder. All right, and I'm going to shrink this back down. As we move down, take a look at my messages, and I just received a message here. You can see here with the 1 icon. If I click on this, I can see that I just received a new conversation here from Brittany, telling us, thank you for joining the Mitel training today. Thank you, Brittany. So this is where I can see all my current interactions, all my current IM interactions. So I might have multiple conversations going with multiple people. I'll be able to see all those messages, all those interactions here under this messages tab, and then I can choose which conversation I want to jump back into, and then I can send a reply back. Keep that conversation going. And that is, of course, again, the messages is one of those things that does have to be enabled both on your system and for your user account by the administrator. That's the IM or chat feature. That's pretty easy. The events tab can do a couple of things. It can show me if I have any Mitel conference meetings scheduled. Those will show up here. I don't have any right now. It'll also, if you have the Microsoft Exchange integration enabled for calendar integration, it will actually show your any Exchange calendar items that you have on for your day. It'll show those to you here. If I wanted to create a new Mitel meeting, because I don't have the Exchange integration enabled for my account, I can come in here again, click the little plus for a new meeting, and I can call this a test meeting today, and I can choose the time and date that I want that to start, how long, how often it occurs, location, could be phone, something like that, who I want my organizers, what not to be, if I have any agenda items. You can kind of build out the meeting here. Under more settings, there's a couple of features here where you can actually allow a custom access code to the meeting or just use the system generated ones. Kind of when to start the meeting, all the typical settings that you have with online meetings, when participants arrive. Press 1 to enter a meeting, those sort of things. Once I have all those settings created, I can create the meeting. Now I'll actually have something showing up in my events tab. And then, of course, when I want to start that meeting, I can jump into it to dial in, or I can start it if it's going to be a screen sharing meeting. I can start it that way. I'm going to come back to meetings in a minute. As we work down here, the next thing we have is work groups. So work groups you may or may not see. Again, to see the work groups tab on your Connect client, you have to be in a work group and you have to have the permission and the license to be able to see that work group. So a work group is kind of like a call queue. When I'm logged in to my work group, I'll receive the calls that come to that work group. When I'm logged out, then I won't be receiving calls that come into that group. In this case, I'm actually looking at the work group supervisor view. I can tell that because I have an agents tab here. So a work group agent would simply have the queues tab, so they'd be able to see if there were any calls stacked up for the queue that they're a member of. They also have a voicemails tab where they can see if there's any voicemails in the voicemail box for the work group. As a supervisor of the work group, I also have the agents tab, which shows me all the members of this work group. And if someone out there needed to get logged in or logged out, I actually have the permission to kind of do that for them. I could log someone out of the group. Then they turn red here. I can log them back into the group. That's also what the red icon next to my name is saying, is that I'm not actually logged into the work group right now. If I do log into the work group, that'll turn green, let me know that I'm logged in, now eligible to get calls for that work group. That's kind of a quick view of work groups from the Connect client perspective. We do have some more in-depth training on work groups out there on our YouTube channel, but so you may or may not see work groups in your Connect client. I did mention that you do have to have the proper license for that. There are 5 different license levels for the Connect client software that an administrator has the ability to assign users to. The first one is no software, phone only. So those users don't get to use the software. Of course, that makes sense for a break room phone, that sort of thing. Next option you have is the Connect client, which is the basic Connect client. Does not include the work groups tab. Then as we move up, you have a work group agent version, which gives you those work group agent features to log in, log out. You have the work group supervisor features, which gives you the ability to see the work group and to log your agents in and out for them. And then kind of the highest one you have is the operator license. So the operator license has a couple features I wanted to show and make people aware of when we get into call handling. So for call handling, I'm going to start, again, I'm going to make a phone call here. Actually, let me do it from my recent calls, and I'm just going to click this recent call here, and I'm going to dial out. And this is actually my cell phone here. Whoops. And I sent myself to voicemail there, so give me just a minute there. It's trying to call my extension, so let me just come up here and we'll do it this way, 1352. And when I'm done dialing the number, I'm just going to press enter here to place the call. All right, and so now I have an active call here. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this, get back to just the basic Connect client here. So you can see that I have an active call. Those will display down here. They'll stack up if you have multiple active calls. If I do click on that call, again, I'm going to get that contact card, and I'm going to get all the details about this contact. I can see all the previous calls I've had with this person. Again, voicemails, IM, if it's an internal person, I'll be able to see that. Any other information I have about the contact. What I did want to show is if you have the contacts view open, you can actually do a drag and drop transfer is one of the ways you can handle a call here. So I can click on this and I can drag him over here and I can choose someone that I want to transfer them to, and I can just drag and drop, or I can wait a few seconds and hold it here, and it's going to give me a list of options. As you see, I can blind transfer, consult transfer, intercom transfer, transfer it to the mailbox, some conferencing options, park it, park and page, park and intercom, again, kind of determined by what permissions that I have. This is very handy for an operator, very easy way to be able to juggle calls using this feature. Now, right now I have the operator license enabled, and that is what gives me all of these different options. If you don't have the operator level license and you just have the basic Connect client license, then you get the option to blind transfer or blind conference the call to the person that you want to send it to, or to park the call is the other option you have, which will put it on hold on the destination extension there. There's kind of two ways you can do it. In this case, you saw me pick up the call here and bring it over here and either drop it or just kind of hover and wait for the options to pop up here. That's one way that we can do this. If I want to not actually transfer the call, I'm just clicking out here to kind of ignore that pop-up message. I can also take the contact and drag them to the call and get the same options. So there's two different ways we can do drag and drop transfers using the Connect client, taking the call to the contact or bringing the contact to the call. Of course, you get the same options there. If I do just a drag and drop and I don't wait for the options to pop up, in that case, I'll be doing a blind transfer. So if you need to quickly transfer a call using the drag and drop, I'll go ahead and let this one go here. I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to drop this over on Brian, and that call is transferred and gone. So that's the drag and drop call handling. I'm going to come up here and dial a number again. Get another call started here. All right. And so again, I've got another call. Could have been a call. In this case, it's a call that I placed outbound. Could easily be an inbound call. It's going to behave the same way. Rather than do drag and drop call handling, I also have the option. Of course, I can end the call. I can hang up the call with some of these quick actions down here. If I click on the call and get more details out here, I do have some other options where I can, again, conference this call, transfer this call. So rather than use drag and drop transfer, I can show you this transfer where I click on the transfer button, gives me an option to type in the name or extension, or I have my recent contacts here that I can interact with. I'm going to go for Brian again here, and I can select him here, and then I have an option to either do a blind transfer consultative transfer. If I have the permissions, I can intercom him. I can park the call in his extension. So that's how you transfer a call using the, not using drag and drop, using the functions of the call on the contact card. Meetings we have down here, that's grayed out. We don't have that enabled on my system. That's integrations with another Mitel meetings platform that we don't have enabled there, so I don't have the ability to show that one. So we'll skip over that. Next thing I want to come up to is phone assignment. So I mentioned kind of at the beginning of this, this Connect client software acts like remote control for your phone. Your phone could potentially be a few different things. In most cases, it's going to be your desk phone. That hardware sitting on your desk is going to be the kind of audio endpoint for your communications. If you want, though, you can choose to use, and again, permissions based, you can choose to use the soft phone. So if I select the soft phone here for my extension, next thing I'm going to have is a choice of what audio device I want to use. So in this case, my computer has a built-in camera and microphone I can choose to use. I have a Bluetooth headset connected to my laptop. You might have a USB, headset microphone combo plugged in, or just whatever speakers and microphone that you do have attached to the computer. Of course, you do have to have both. It won't give you the soft phone option if it doesn't detect that your computer has both speakers and a microphone. And then once you have that enabled, the icon up here changes to let you know that you are now on soft phone. So if I go back to desk phone, my extension does show up on my desk phone, on the display of my desk phone. It has my name and extension number, as it typically does. And this is what the icon looks like when you're assigned to the desk phone. You'll notice if you do choose soft phone, the icon changes here. And if you are still at your desk, you'll notice that your name actually disappears from your desk phone because your extension is no longer assigned to that physical piece of hardware sitting on your desk. Your extension is now assigned just to this Connect client software and whatever audio we have connected to this computer. So that's the soft phone option. The next option we have down here is external assignment. So in this case, I can actually assign my extension to my cell phone. So it works similar to call forwarding, but a little bit differently. If someone were to call me, it's going to show up here in my Connect client, but it's going to ring my cell phone. I'll be able to answer the call, using my cell phone. If I answer that call, I'll be able to interact with that call using my Connect client, just like we could any of these other calls. I can drag and drop transfer. I can park it to other extensions, all the same features for interacting with the call I can do when I have my extension assigned to my cell phone. When you are setting up assignment to your cell phone, you do have a couple of options out there under the edit button. Of course, the phone number, whatever label makes sense. That's just a text field I can type in there. How many rings do I want it to try to ring on my cell phone before we kind of give up here? And then do I want it to automatically connect when my cell phone answers, or do I want the system to play me a prompt that says I'm receiving a call from, and it'll read out the caller ID, and it'll say, press 1 to accept or 2 to reject that call. Couple reasons you might want to have the press 1 turned on. If you're receiving calls to your cell phone, if your cell phone voicemail were to answer that call, maybe you're out of range and your cell phone voicemail answers without your phone even ringing, or your cell phone voicemail answers, before the number of rings we've told it to kind of give up here. The system, if you just say automatically connect, then it's going to connect that caller to your cell phone voicemail, and that caller will then potentially leave a message in your cell phone voicemail. If you have press 1 to connect, obviously it's going to take you answering your cell phone, pressing 1 to confirm that you have that call before it kind of completes the transfer to your cell phone, and you won't end up with any voicemails in your cell phone voicemail if you didn't intend for that to happen. So that's the reason you might want to use that. You can also kind of test out and look at the settings on your cell phone for how many rings before voicemail versus the settings that you have here on how many rings to try your cell phone, and make sure you adjust that, kind of in the way you want, so those voicemail messages end up where you want them to end up. So there's a couple considerations that you have with the external assignment. I'm going to go back to my desk phone. That's my normal operating mode here. You'll also notice that when I clicked on my name to come to this screen, I also show my conference down here. Each user who is assigned to the Mitel conference bridge does have what they call a reservation list conference. So I have a conference code here for myself and a participant code, and this bridge is just kind of open all the time. And I can share that as needed. They do make a nice option here where I can copy this information. If I just want to copy this and drop it into an email, I can do that. And of course, anytime I want to join my bridge, I have the option here to join via audio or join via the screen share web client. That's basically the phone assignment. It's kind of what I wanted to show there by clicking on your name. We're back to desk phone there. Next thing we have here is the availability states. So we do have availability states, and I'll briefly describe what those are. So in the Mitel system, you have, what do we have, 6 different availability states here: available, in a meeting, out of office, on vacation, do not disturb, and custom. Each one of these availability states can be configured to have different voicemail greetings or potentially different call handling rules assigned to them. So for example, and I'm on vacation, maybe I want a greeting that says, I'm going to be out all week, please leave a message, or, maybe don't. The other options, in a meeting, maybe I want to set up my in a meeting mode so that it transfers calls to somebody else that works in my department, so that I don't, so that anybody who tries to call me is going to get handled by somebody. Maybe when I'm out of the office, I want to have calls transferred to my cell phone immediately rather than ring up my desk phone. Maybe that's what out of office does, what I want out of office to do. So those are some of the examples of what you can do with the different call handling modes. I'll show you in a minute where we go into these different what are called availability states and configure how they work. But this option right here, right under my name, is the quick way to be able to toggle into those different states. So I can put it in vacation mode. I can put it in out of office mode. And you can also do that with the button on your telephone that says state. But this is just an easy way to do it from the Connect client. You can also edit the note out here. So under training, or I'm sorry, under my in a meeting, I've edited this to have a little more details that says training here. I can click on a little pencil and I can, say what kind of meeting that I'm in or why I have it in this particular availability state. And then when I do have that availability state enabled, instead of it saying in a meeting, it says training, because that's the note I attached to that availability state. And that also means that when my contacts are looking for me out here in their contacts, they're going to be able to see that I'm not available, and that I have training as my availability state because of that note that I attached here. Again, by using the little pencil icon out here. And if I want to take that off, I can do that. Oops. Done. Now it just displays the default name of that availability state, which is in a meeting. Also, before we get into the settings, one other thing that I want to point out here, because sometimes people are trying to find this, if you need to log out of the Connect client, it's actually under the availability states. There is the logout option right there. So if you're trying to change the username, or if some settings about your account have been updated and you need to back out and come back in, that's where you can find the logout option, is under your name, under the availability states. In that drop down, you have the logout option there. All right, so with that, now I'd like to bring you into the settings. There's a couple different ways to get to the settings screen. One is you can click on the Connect menu at the top here and select Settings. Another option that brings you to the same place is if you click on your name again and this gear icon, this brings you to the same place, to the settings. Oh, there we go. Under settings, the first thing I want to bring you to is the call routing tab under here. So we just discussed the different availability states. Here they are again. This is where we can actually configure what those availability states are going to do for us. So let's say I want to go to my out of office availability state, and I want to make some changes there. The Mitel Connect client does a really good job of summarizing all the different settings that are enabled for this availability state, and they explain them in pretty plain English here, so I really like that they've done that for us. I can see here that when I'm in out of office, incoming calls are routed to my desk phone. They're not going anywhere else. I don't have any simultaneous ring on. That's another feature where you could have your desk phone and maybe your cell phone ring at the same time. But incoming calls are immediately routed to voicemail. So because it's out of office, this is the default kind of behavior of the out of office availability state. There are a couple features related to the voicemail. So because calls are immediately routed to voicemail, I'll see here that if callers press 1 while listening to my voicemail greeting, right here it says no phones are selected to sequentially ring. That feature of pressing 1 during my voicemail greeting is a feature called Find Me. You can have that enabled so that when callers hear your voicemail greeting, you know, hi, this is Steve, I'm out of the office. If you'd like to try to find me on my cell phone, press 1. The system will then kind of put that call on hold. It'll ring out to my cell phone. If I'm able to take the call there, great, I've got it. If not, it comes back to the caller and says, I'm sorry, we were unable to locate your party, and then drops them into your voicemail box so they can leave you a message. Another option that's very similar to that, I'm going to skip down a couple of callers who press 0 during my voicemail greeting. By default, I set here to forward to the auto attendant, but you could potentially change that. I can click on change any of these I want to change, and I could send that to maybe someone else in my department. And then I could record in my voicemail greeting, you know, again, I'm out of the office. If you'd like to reach someone else in my department, press 0. Otherwise, stay on the line and leave me a message. Just to give those callers some options to get somebody. So those are two things that you can announce in your voicemail greeting to direct callers to other places. You don't have to use those features. Obviously, if you don't state that those features are available, you know, kind of nobody's going to know. In some cases, people kind of use it as a hidden option. So maybe only like when their family calls in, they know they can press 1 if they don't answer and it'll ring their cell phone. So that's another way that I've seen that feature used. We also have the option down here for voicemail greeting. So it does tell me I have a voicemail greeting recorded for my out of office call handling state. If I want to change that, again, I can come out here. We have the option to record. Brings me to this menu here where I can record the greeting. I can choose to make the recording using either my telephone or whatever audio device I have connected to my computer. Usually the telephone, if you have the desk phone, is going to be kind of the best audio source for that, unless you have a really good headset connected to your computer. But that's where you can change the different voicemail greetings for each of these different availability states. You know, callers are allowed to leave a voicemail. You know, that's another setting that we have available here. So again, a good summary of all the different settings that are available under this particular availability state. So right here it says callers are immediately routed to voicemail. Earlier I said maybe I want to use out of office to send calls to my cell phone. So instead of always sending calls to voicemail, I can choose to always forward the calls to, and I can put in a phone number here. You know, whatever number makes sense. I'm actually going to cancel out of that. So you've got your different states. The one of the states is a little bit different. The do not disturb does not give you as many options, doesn't have the find me options and the simultaneous ring options and all that sort of thing, because it's do not disturb. The point of do not disturb is to not be disturbed. So you're basically, you can send calls to voicemail or you can send calls somewhere else when you're in do not disturb mode. Or you could choose to never forward the calls, but in that case, it's just going to kind of ring indefinitely. But as you can see, the other availability states have several options. Do not disturb is the different one there. The other thing under call routing is you do have these power routing rules. So the power routing rules are very similar to Outlook Outlook mail handling rules, if you're familiar with that. I can choose here. What do we have here? I've confused it a little bit here. With the power routing rules, we can say when a particular call comes in from a particular contact, we can do some different things. Maybe you have a nuisance call and you want to always, dump that call off somewhere. Or maybe, in this case, I have built one here that says wife override. So I can take a look at that and I can say, if a call comes in and it's from my wife's cell phone and I'm in a meeting, it'll still play a ringtone on my phone. So it'll kind of override my in a meeting call handling that sends my calls to voicemail, and it'll play a ringtone if that phone number calls me. You've got some different things here you can kind of build these rules with. If a number matches this, or maybe if they dialed in on a particular number, like maybe you have a specific inbound DID that you want those calls to be treated differently, you can use that as to build the rule off of. And of course your availability state, if I'm on the phone or not, and even time of day. So I think I have another rule built for nighttime. So in this case, I just have a rule built that says if a call comes in between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m., send it to voicemail. I'm rarely at my desk between those hours, so of course you can still use your different call handling modes and that sort of thing, but this is just an example of how you can use these power routing rules to do some different things with your calls. While we're in settings, there's a few other things I want to bring up. One of them, next one down here, is voicemail. So these are settings related to your voicemail box. First one here, when you play back a message, do you want it to play the envelope information? And that's going to be the information about the caller ID, date, and time that the message was sent. So when you're listening to the voicemail, you're going to hear kind of the automated voice say, voicemail from 352-401-0909, left, Sunday, read out the date and everything for you. If you're using the Connect client to check your voicemail, probably not necessary because it's going to show you the date and time information on the screen. Next one here is the setup of your voicemail box. So this is where you could change your voicemail password. Of course, this is the numeric password to check your voicemail. And then you also have the option here, this is one that people ask for quite a bit, is how to record your name. So if you don't record a full voicemail greeting under your different availability states, the system will use your name announcement, which was made kind of the first time you accessed your voicemail. It kind of required you to record your name, and it'll use that name announcement along with a canned greeting. So it'll say like, Stephen Hall is in a meeting, and walk them through leaving a message. If you need to go back and re-record just the name part for your mailbox, this is where you can re-record them. Like, for example, if you were to take a voicemail message and I wanted to forward this voicemail message that I received to someone else in my organization, I can send this over to, again, I'll pick on Brian again. Then when I send him this message, it's going to say, you have a message forwarded from, and it's going to play my recorded name to that message when I forward it. So there's a few different places that the system will use your recorded name, and this is the place where you come change that. Next one is the escalation profiles. We do have a feature here where you can actually fire off some alerts if a voicemail message is left and has not been checked. So this makes sense if it's like maybe an emergency mailbox or a high priority mailbox of some sort. You can get these escalation profiles, and what create a new profile here. Did that pop up on another screen here? No. Let me back out of here. Go back into settings, voicemail, escalation. There we go. So to create a new escalation profile, obviously we're going to give it a name. We can leave the default name there. How many times it's going to repeat, if we want it to keep repeating indefinitely. I think we can put up to 99 repeats in there, and then we can add a step. So what I want to have do, if a voicemail message is left in this mailbox, maybe I just want to start out by sending an email notification. So I can send an email to Steve, and then if that message isn't checked in 10 minutes, I can add another step, and maybe this time I want to make a phone call out to, my cell phone or whatever. Um, have the option for a pager if anybody still has a pager. There's a checkbox for that. Haven't seen those in quite a while. But so what happens now is, it first sends an email out, waits 10 minutes, message still has not been checked. Then it's going to send a phone call out here and say, there's a new message for, this mailbox. Again, if they don't get any response on that number and that message still sits there as an unheard message, we can choose to add another step, and you can continue calling people or firing off emails to different destinations, kind of as many times as you need. Like I said, this makes sense for kind of a high priority mailbox or an urgent mailbox. Or you can even tie these escalation profiles to certain modes. Like maybe you only want to be notified if you get a voicemail while your phone is in a particular call handling state, like, in a meeting. Maybe in that case, you want to have an email notification fired off to, maybe somebody else in your department that a message is sitting in your mailbox. A few different ways you can use the escalation profiles, but that's what they are and kind of where they are. And then the last tab under the voicemail settings here is to show my voicemails inline in my Outlook inbox. So this is a feature called Outlook Voicemail Integration. This is a feature we get asked a lot of different questions about. People want to have something pop up in Outlook to let them know that they have a new voicemail. This checkbox enables that integration, but it does not actually send an email. So there's actually another setting down here under notifications that's very similar. I want to show you that one and kind of show you what the difference is between them. So here under notifications for voicemail, I have an option to send an email notification when I receive a voicemail. I can choose whether or not to attach a WAV file, and I can choose whether or not sending the email actually should mark that message as heard. Again, that's different than, so that's actually sending an email under notifications. Under voicemail, it's just saying in Outlook to show the voicemails in my Outlook. And so I want to show you in my Outlook what that looks like. Okay, so here is my Outlook, and here's a message I left myself just a little bit ago. And there's actually two lines here relating to this message. So this one here that has this little tape cassette icon, this is the Outlook integration between the Connect client software and my Outlook desktop software, but it's not actually an email. And so sometimes the email administrator is concerned about whether or not there's an actual email there. If we're using this feature, show my voicemails inline in my Outlook inbox, that's not actually an email. And if I click play, it's actually using my Mitel Connect client software to play the message. And it's synchronized between the two too. So if I were to delete the message over here, that's the training room message. If I delete it over here, it deletes it from my Connect client as well. This other message up here is the actual email. And you can see there's a little paperclip icon because there's an attachment. And that is because under notifications, I chose to send an email as well. So I had two different notifications for that. This one is the actual email with the WAV file attachment. So because this is not just Outlook integration, that means this one I'll be able to pick up like on my smartphone. If I have my work email accessible on my smartphone, I'll be able to check that message from there, listen to that WAV file attachment. But of course, deleting the email from my email box does not necessarily or does not delete the message from my Connect client voicemail box. So we do get quite a few questions about that. Hopefully that explanation clears that up a little bit about the difference between the Outlook integration and email notification for new voicemails. All right, and then I have one other thing to show you. We have just a couple minutes left. and that is toolbars. So one of the other features we have here in the Mitel Connect client is a toolbar. So we have an option here to show the toolbar or edit the toolbar by clicking on the Connect Client menu at the very top. I'm going to choose here to show the toolbar, and you'll see that this opens up a toolbar that I have already kind of pre-configured here. With the toolbar, you have a whole bunch of different shortcut buttons that you can use to perform like speed dials. They also work like monitored extension buttons, so I can see this guy's out of office. Right now, none of these guys are on the phone, so I can't show you that. I also have a button here that will launch a particular URL. So in this case, my contact center login. So if I click on this, it actually opens up this web page here so that I can log into my contact center. And I also have a speed dial here, and by hovering, I can see what the function is there and what number that it's calling. So those are handy. The way these toolbars are built is, again, the system administrator has to create what toolbar buttons are available to you as a user. And then once they create what's available, and the administrator can assign these buttons to certain groups, they can also assign certain buttons to maybe only specific individuals. There's a lot of control that we can do inside the Connect director by configuring these buttons. But then as a user, I have an option to choose which buttons I want to display and even how I want to display them. So I can click on this little plus down here, and this brings up a list of all the buttons that the administrator has made available to me. And then I can simply check the box here to enable that button to be part of my toolbar. Now, I think you can have up to, it's a very high number. I think it might be like 140 different toolbar buttons. Of course, you're going to be scrolling at that point to see them all. But I can check off whichever buttons I want to have visible here. Once I have them all checked off, I can X out of here because I'm done with this window here. If I want to reorder the buttons in here, I can just drag one up. If I drop it on top of another one, it's going to push everything down. So I can get this rearranged, in whatever order makes sense to me. And those are the toolbar buttons. And so when I have the toolbar enabled, this stays here all the time. Right now, I can see that Nick is on the phone. I can see that Scott's out of the office here. Again, if I want to launch my contact center web page, I got a quick option for that. Speed dials are another good use for the toolbars. And so that brings me to the end of what I had prepared to show today. If you guys have any questions, please add those to the questions, and we'll take a look at that. Otherwise, thank you for attending today, and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Steve, it looks like we did have a question come in. Let me just read through this. Looks like they're having issues with tracking accurately with their Outlook calendar. Anything you can go into that?
Yeah, Mike, that might be one where we might need to get on a call and take a look. I'd be curious if you're using either Exchange on-premise or Outlook 365. There are some settings in the Outlook 365, cloud Exchange that can affect how that works. And there's a couple other settings we can take a look at to find out. I'm also curious if it's so some of your users. So if it's only happening to some on-premise, okay. Yeah, so there are some settings, turn that on and off. So again, we can come into settings and Outlook right here. And we have an option right here to sync my Exchange calendar with my Mitel Connect availability modes. And I have an option here to use my Outlook work hours to switch into out of office. So we do want to make sure we have those options checked. If it's working for some users and not others, yeah, we would definitely want to make sure that the settings on their individual extension are set correctly. That would be the first thing I would think to look at there. Other than that, we might need to dig in a little bit deeper on that one.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. We can set up a call to go over all that with you and jump into the Connect client with you guys.
Yeah, and for anybody else that's not aware, that's a feature we didn't really dive into, but that is the ability to have an item on your Outlook calendar, an upcoming meeting, and you can choose on that calendar item which of those availability states you want to have it put you in. Typically, you can have it change your telephone availability state to in a meeting when you have a meeting, or you can even have it put you in out of office at the end of your day. You can actually go into Outlook and define what your work day is. Maybe it's 9 to 5. You plug that in there, and then your phone automatically flips into out of office at 5 o'clock and stays that way until 9 o'clock the next morning, and automatically brings you back into the available state in the morning. So that's the feature that he was asking about there.
All right. We'll give it another minute or two since we're coming up right on the top of the hour to see if anybody else has any other questions. But other than that, you can reach out to Robert Hipke, your client success manager, which is always on these webinars, and he'll go over all of the details as well.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Steve. It's always great.